the ephod and the breastplate of judgment, what did the rest of the high priest's attire look like? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Exodus on walking through the Bible.
The glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, turn to Exodus 39. We're going to be reading from verses 22 to 31. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Exodus 39, beginning at verse 22. He made the robe of the ephod of woven work, all of blue, and there was an opening in the middle of the robe like an opening in a coat of mail, with a woven binding all around the opening so that it would not tear. They made on the hem of the robe pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet, and of fine woven linen. And they made bells of pure gold, and put the bells between the pomegranates on the hem of the robe all around between the pomegranates. A bell and a pomegranate, a bell and a pomegranate, all around the hem of the robe to minister in, as the Lord had commanded Moses. They made tunics artistically woven of fine linen for Aaron and his sons, a turban of fine linen, exquisite hats of fine linen, short trousers of fine woven linen, and a sash of fine woven linen with blue, purple, and scarlet thread, made by a weaver, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then they made the plate of the holy crown of pure gold, and wrote on it an inscription like the engraving of a signet, Holiness to the Lord. And they tied to it a blue cord to fasten it above on the turban, as the Lord had commanded Moses. In our last episode, we continued looking at the garments of the priests again as they were being made. Now, as we said in previous episodes, even though we have already discussed these garments once before, we're going to review what we learned about them following the readings of each section. The instructions we read of today were found in chapter 28, lessons 109 and 110 of this series. Underneath the ephod containing the breastplate of judgment, the high priest was to wear a robe, which would serve as a coat or his outer garment. This robe was made of all blue. Unlike the ephod, which was made in two pieces and fastened together, the coat was one piece with an opening for the head in the middle. The opening had a woven binding all around, like an opening of a coat of mail, so that the robe didn't tear. Along the hem they made pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet, and in between each pomegranate a golden bell was placed. All around the robe there were rows of 2 pomegranates interspersed with 2 golden bells. These bells would obviously make noise, which was intended when he was in the holy place, that he would not die. If the high priest wasn't properly attired in the house of God, it is said that God would strike the high priest dead. So if the children of Israel didn't hear the bells upon the high priest in the tabernacle, they would know what had happened. Upon the head of the high priest was to be a gold plate or a gold crown. This plate would not likely go all the way around his head, but only extend from ear to ear. Engraved upon it was the phrase, Holiness to the Lord. This phrase, of course, testifies that the Lord is holy, but it also signifies that the high priest has been called by the Lord to his sacred duty, and therefore he was to be holy as well. The plate was attached by a blue cord to the front of a turban, which would be made of fine linen. The gold plate represented the fact that Aaron bore the iniquities of the holy things which the children of Israel hallowed by their gifts. What this means is that the high priest was to be responsible for their conduct of the entire people, which is why he performed the services in the tabernacle. This plate was always to be upon his head, so that they, the nation of Israel, might be accepted before the Lord. Along with the robe, the high priest would also wear a skillfully woven tunic or fine linen thread. We would think of this as a long shirt worn under the robe, serving as the high priest's inner garment. The attire was completed by a sash of woven work that would be worn around the waist. Moving on to the common priests, they too would have special garments, but these garments would differ from the high priest's garments. For instance, the common priest would not wear an ephod, nor would he wear a robe. He would wear a tunic of skillfully woven linen, which would look like a long shirt, thought to have reached down to the ankles. They also wore sashes made of woven work. For their heads, the headdress, again, would be slightly different to that of the high priest. For instance, there would be no crown, but the New King James Version says hats, or more aptly, caps. What is likely being talked about is a cup-shaped cap, similar to the Jewish kippah or yarmulke. This completes the official garments of the common priests. The last piece of clothing that both the common priest and the high priest wore were linen trousers, or what we would refer to as long shorts or underwear. These trousers came from the waist to their thighs in order to cover their nakedness. Since the thighs end just around your knee, the trousers of the priests that they wore in the tabernacle of meeting, or when they would serve around the Lord, would extend from the waist to around the knee. Now, why were these trousers necessary? Were the robes God designed not enough to cover the priest's nakedness? For most of the time, they were. However, if the wind blew underneath these robes because they were fairly light material and lifted them up, or if during their work their robes shifted or were torn, their nakedness could be exposed. The sanctuary of the Lord was to be a holy place, so this extra precaution, in order to avoid the priest's nakedness being exposed, was to be taken. With that, our time is up for today. Due to the Canadian Thanksgiving holiday, we will be taking a one-day break and return, the Lord willing, on Tuesday, October 15th, 2019. We hope you'll join us then when we will be discussing Exodus 39, verses 32 to 43, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.